Democratic Congressman André Carson of Indiana. Congressman, what do you want to extract from these witnesses that you feel the American people need to know?
Thanks for having me, Rev. I think it's important that these witnesses many of them will reiterate what was said to members of the committee privately, but also I think that they will highlight the fact that President Trump did, in fact, attempt to misuse taxpayer dollars, your and my taxpayer dollars, that have been approved by both the House and the Senate, to use as leverage to force the Ukrainian government to investigate a political rival, i.e. Joe Biden.
Now, when people say this is no big deal, it doesn't rise to a level of impeachment, you're saying, as you just clearly said, he took U.S. Congress, agreed upon money, voted upon money, taxpayers' money of the U.S., to use U.S. tax dollars as leverage to get some dirt on his political opponent. Is that not an abuse of power that is impeachable in your opinion?
Absolutely. I think it's a textbook abuse of power. I think what's important to note for my Republican colleagues, Reverend, to constantly talk about rule of law, to constantly talk about the preservation of our democracy and our republic, they have blatantly refused to condemn President Trump in a way that indicates a deep-seated fear of the president campaigning against them in their own districts, or even tweeting against them several times, thus jeopardizing their primary reelection efforts. It's a very sad time.
Now, the Republican Party has always been known in my time as the party of law and order, and it seems now that they keep moving the bar on where's the law, and they've certainly tried to have an administration of disorder. We're looking at this proposed witness list. As you see this witness list, it doesn't seem like they are addressing or intend to address with witnesses the phone call and the actual transaction that was between the president and President Zelensky of Ukraine. They want to go to Joe Biden's son. They want to go to the whistleblower and those that might have aided him. So it seems like if you're having a hearing about abuse of power, you would be trying to prove it wasn't an abuse of power rather than issues that really doesn't directly, or in some cases indirectly, address what is being raised here.
No, that's a great point, Reverend. I think that even with their attempts to remove certain members from the Intelligence Committee and replace them with the likes of Representative Jim Jordan, it shows that they are pulling from some of President Trump's staunchest allies, and they're attempting to stack the deck, if you will, to have advocates and to have people who are more disruptive sit on the committee, for people who will leak more information to the press on the committee. And it shows a kind of a lack of patriotism in my mind, since they want to talk about the Constitution and patriotism so much. And they're showing this blind loyalty to a president who is not only tyrannical, he is certainly a bully.
Now, you brought up Jordan and the fact that they switched him and made him and shifted him from the Oversight Committee to be part of this committee, a temporary member of the Intel Committee for the impeachment hearings. Now, Jordan, as you stated, is a strong defender of President Trump, but he's also well known for his combative, disruptive questioning style. Are you nervous Republicans will now set the tone for the hearings and it become more of a circus-like atmosphere?
I think so. I think the Intelligence Committee has a particular tone and a culture. I think it's suitable for the members who sit on the Intel Committee. It's a committee that both of us on both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats, take very seriously. I think with Representative Jordan there, I think not only will Trump have a mouthpiece, but he will have a disruptor, if you will. He will have an extension of the P.T. Barnum circus that we're seeing played out each and every day. And it's so unfortunate, especially as we're dealing with our national security, as we're dealing with the kind of oversight that's necessary over our 16 intelligence agencies, particularly those who have historically spied on Americans. You need good advocates there to make sure that they're doing right by us. They do make sacrifices, Reverend, but we also know that there needs to be greater oversight, not the kind of disruptive president presence that some of them will offer simply for the president's pleasure.
Now, if this president is proven to have abused power, proven to have used taxpayer dollars to try to extract or extort another head of state of a foreign government to impact in his behalf and for his purposes a U.S. election by muddying up his potential opponent, and he's not convicted, have we then effectively lowered the bar of what abuse of power is and what a president can do in office? I mean, have we opened up the floodgates now to where it's acceptable for a sitting president or a prospective presidential candidate to use foreign powers to impact and affect American elections?
I think in many ways the answer to your question is yes. I think in other ways one would ask, can the bar be lowered any more than it has been? I think President Trump has certainly changed the way we view future presidents. I think it changes the way we elect presidents in terms of being able to connect with presidents, being able to relate to them on certain ways. He is certainly a member of the 1%, but he also represents a kind of discontent. He represents a kind of disillusionment that you've talked about for decades that exists in certain segments of our society. So I think his demagoguery is certainly of note, but I don't think that he is dumb. I think he's very smart. I think he has high emotional intelligence. He's not the policy wonk that we loved about President Obama or Secretary Clinton or President Clinton. He's a different kind of smart. He's a master manipulator. He reads people quite well. He's certainly a chess player, and you having worked with him for decades, Reverend, I'm sure you can attest to much more.
Yeah, but sometimes he was playing checkers while we played chess. But as we see this, I have to ask you about voters. When we look at the fact that Democrats won some unlikely elections on Tuesday, and let's go right to Columbus, Indiana, where the city council went Democratic, right there in your home state. Are you seeing an energizing of Democratic voting?
Absolutely. We're also seeing a shift, Reverend, with independent males, white males specifically, who are voting democratically. We're seeing a shift in the suburbs. I think the tenor and tone that this administration has set has caused this shift in Midwestern states and small Midwestern towns and even Southern towns. And people are saying enough is enough. They certainly don't know what the next president may look like, be like, or sound like, but I think that there's something to them wanting a more generic or even boring president, someone who is not as provocative and confrontational and controversial. They want someone who is about the business, who is a great administrator, who's willing to reach across the aisle and work with other people, but do it in a way that doesn't unsettle the balance of our country.
All right, Indiana Congressman André Carson, thank you for being with us tonight.